four of us in the panel. So thanks a lot for coming to this meeting as well. And we have sent actually 4 areas where we would like to talk with you. I mean, these are quite big areas which we would like to cover in this panel. And let's see whether we will manage it in this 1 hour, but luckily Victor was giving us a bit more time, so we have a bit more time to cover this, because I think these are very challenging. As I mentioned in my introduction, what we have seen and observed in the last, let's say, 5 to 6 years is that there was a big agreement and a big push from the European countries and from the Commission as well to make all these legislative acts, so the Fit for 55 package, then the REPowerEU and the Green packages as well, which has the ultimate target of having this 2050 decarbonization, which seems to be a long-term process. But if you consider as well that if you consider the energy sector or the building sector, it's really challenging for Hungary and for the other European countries and for the region as well. And I think it's really time to have a stock taking of these activities and legislation as well. And we just agreed with Irek that we are always starting with the challenges, but let's start at this time rather from the positive side. So we would like to ask first the question that personally, what do you think that which are the items in this legislative package which will stay the most bulletproof one, which will stay there, which is probably maybe 1 or 2 most important elements of this green package, let's call it in this way, which will be there and on which we will have to work hard in order to reach our long-term target. Because there are many acts where there are big question marks, and we'll come to this part later. But I think there are quite many elements which will have to leave and which will have to die actually up till 2050, because these are the items which are really the columns of this green policy of the European Union. So I don't know, maybe let's start with Daniela, as you are the closest here, and then we will follow that piece. So Daniela, what do you think? Which are these columns which you would not change? They are needed elements anyway.
It's really, is it working?
Let me see. It works now. So you have to push it.
Okay. Welcome everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I would like to start a little bit further with the Green Deal and the idea of the Green Deal. In 2019, the European Council has decided on the Green Deal, and that the European Union has to reach climate neutrality by 50. So our heads of state and government and the whole European Union put faith in climate neutrality and the Green Deal itself. And if you look at for example, the weather conditions today here in Hungary, here in Budapest, there is a 34 or 35 degrees outside, and these heat waves and extreme weather events will be more often in the near future as well. So it's an absolute fact that we have to act in order to preserve or don't make it any more worse. So the aim of the Green Deal is positive, but and because we have to make a better and a greener future for ourselves and for our children as well. But the deal part is missing right now, I think. So it's green, but not very much a deal. So the path of the Green Deal, the implementation of the Green Deal, which is the Fit for 55 itself, is not working really well, if we can say that. We are before the Hungarian presidency 1 week, so I can say such things right now. So we see as Hungary or as member states that we want to solve everything in one single step, and it's not working our economy and our citizens stated on 9th of June that the path forward, the Green Deal, is not working really well. You can see the EP elections. The Greens lost, I think, 19 seats. The Liberals lost 22 seats. So I think it says it all. That we have to change the course. We have to change the implementation. Sorry.
Probably it's online.
Okay, online participants. Okay. So the aim is good, but the implementation, we have to fine-tuning the implementation, especially if you look at the Antwerp Declaration from February, in which the European economy has raised its voice that we have to do something differently.
Yeah, thanks, Daniela. But we just agreed that we will do this round in the third question, the positive one. So let me ask this.
Try to avoid the question.
Okay. Then if you want to avoid, then maybe let's move to Christoph, and then let's see if Christoph can have some positive messages as well. So what are the policy actions here which you would say that the really core one and the needed one? I think it's green. Should be green. Okay. You see okay.
It's amazing how long we've been doing these conferences, and it's always a problem with microphones. So I'm waiting for someone to discover a totally revolutionary technology. But yeah, a billion dollar idea. I think there are, of course, I agree with you that the speed and the kind of uncertainty coming with the speed is very difficult to take, especially in our region. I think countries starting with different levels, and for us it's always we are a few steps behind the ones who can afford the speedy transition. So it's always more difficult. Having said that, of course, there are parts of the whole spectrum of the Green Deal and the Repower, etc., that we should maintain. I would just point out the elements where we're trying to level the playing field with just transition tools. Of course, we should make them bigger and better, but they are there, and we should protect them and try to make sure in the next MFF negotiations that there's enough funds in these tools. Social climate fund, this is something new, again, to level the playing field and to help people to actually address the climate and energy policy ambition. You know, there'll be people endangered with energy poverty. This is the tool to help them get out of this, invest. And I think that's another element that I'm happy with. And of course, I'll have another ask to increase the budget. I think it's fair to say that there's a landscape of tools that my prediction is that they will stay. So Renewables Energy Directive, EU ETS 1, and Energy Efficiency Directive. These are the kind of the design that will continue going forward. I'm not saying it will be easy to meet the targets, but I think it's fair to say that these will stay around and we need to work with them. And third group of elements I would like to praise is that we finally started to look more assertively towards industrial policy in Europe. And this is what you said about the Antwerp Declaration. The Net Zero Industry Act is a very good first step towards making sure that the green transition we have in Europe will be based on European technologies as well. Because if we outsource everything and base ourselves on technologies replacing fossil fuels with green technologies from import, that's not going to work. So I think Net Zero Industry Act and first step towards the comprehensive European industrial policy.
Thank you very much. It's a very nice introduction, and maybe let's give the word to Lucas. So please, positive side, which will be there.
Thank you.
In the future.
As was already said, it's a comprehensive set of legislation and strategic documents. You have to keep in mind that there is the main goal of the climate neutrality by 2050, as well as the minus 55% of the GHG emissions by 2030. While there are also some targets for renewables, energy efficiency, and so on. We have to distinguish between these goals. We, of course, as the states, are responsible for implementing all of them. But for the need of our planet and our well-being, the GHG reduction goal is the most important. On the positive note, I will probably mention an anecdotal past, not so far away past from Czech Republic, just from April this year. April this year came at a very hot March, which was one of the hottest Marches of 10-20 years ago. So in April, the temperatures below zero came for like 15 to 20 days. And people already in our republic, the ones that are most critical to the European Green Deal and to the global warming theory and so on, came with their opinion that climate change has ended, that we are nearing the temperatures lowering, not rising, and so on. Then the Czech Hydrometeorological Institute came with the fact that even this April, with temperatures below zero for almost all mornings, was above average in terms of temperature, and it was one of the 15 consecutive months that were above average temperature. So I would say that many of those critics of European Green Deal, of the theory of global warming and so on, come from circles that are not so very well aware of the facts. And it was already probably shown in the votes in European Parliament in our republic, when one political party gained 2 mandates only by stating that they will cancel European Green Deal in terms of cars with combustion engines. So I would say that the positive note, the European Green Deal is very important, not only for the environment, but also, as was shown in the prices of energy for households and so on, in terms of energy security and also in terms of economy of energy. And the thing that should be done probably more is more explaining on the part of not only European Commission, but also member states.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this first question answers, and slowly let's move to the second one, because I think there are more items which we can cover here. So Christoph was mentioning as well that that will stay with us. Energy efficiency is important, and all these things are actually coded in the process through this National Energy and Climate Plan process, which is actually very, very interesting in that sense that we are in a very good timing as well, because what happened is that we had the first step in this second round, that we have the draft NECPs. The Commission was evaluating these, that maybe these are not ambitious enough. And then by end of summer or early September, or this autumn, we are expecting that there will be the final NECP revisions available from the member state. And my question, if data or policies available there, if you would see that by the end of the summer, early autumn, you would see that will we be more ambitious or not. So whether you have any information which you can share with us that concerning energy, renewable energy target, greenhouse gas targets, or energy efficiency targets, or hydrogen targets, whether you will show higher ambitions in these finalized NECP revisions as well or not. And maybe we can come backwards and then let's do it in this way. So let's start with Lucas.
So we took a bit different approach from the last time with our NECP, and we started a study which is called CPR. It's a multi-team research development team from various universities like Czech Charles University and Cambridge Economics, if I'm not mistaken. And they were working on the pathway to the minus 55% GHG emissions by 2030 using various tools. So they were taking the renewable energy share or the energy efficiency not as primarily, not as a goal, but as a tool. And they came to the conclusion that with only just a 30% share of renewables, with some energy efficiency measures in place and also some development of nuclear, we would reach this goal by 2030. And we use this approach to the NECP, also to our state energy policy and climate protection policy. So we are completing all these three documents together. And it was a bit different approach from the traditional approach when you take the formulas from the annexes of directives and you calculate our share and just put it in the NECP. So we put the output numbers from this study into the NECP and send it to the Commission with some delay, I have to say. And we get some recommendation from European Commission regarding increasing the share of renewables from 30 to 33% based on the formula in the directive. While we also get some additional recommendations regarding the trajectories for renewables or for ESR sectors for greenhouse gas emission reductions. And we are now completing this and finishing the second or third run of the models in this study because there are comprehensive models, including like 4 models for micro and microeconomics, economics of households, the stability of electrical grid, and so on. And this includes some time to compute, and we will put these outputs with regard of so to accept the Commission recommendation to our updated NECP.
Just one quick question to this: that, for example, taking the target of renewables, how do you arrive to a number of 30% or 33%? So the question is it only cost driven, or there are technical difficulties or constraints which you would see in the country that would determine that going above 30 would be very expensive or difficult to achieve within the time frame? So what is the decision parameter?
There were some given constraints at the beginning regarding the maximum share of various sources based on the outside studies for the stability of grid and so on, and also some expectations to increase the share of nuclear by building another blocks and so on, while the rest of the study was purely economical optimization.
Probably cost driven. Thank you. Christoph?
Yeah, we have also with slight delay. We were waiting for them. We also supplied the Commission with draft NECP, and our plan from the start was that the first draft was one of the conservative scenario, and now we're working on a more ambitious scenario. So that's the second part of our work. And then once this is complete, we plan to send it for public consultation, and then we'll have a discussion where we land in the final NSCP that we will send to the Commission, because we will have two scenarios, one conservative that Commission commented, and one will be more ambitious, and then we'll pick what the landing zone is. And what can I say already is that of course renewables is again something that comes with a cost. Everything comes with a cost. It's the main driver of the whole exercise, because you can do everything with hydrogen, but it will cost you a fortune. So you need to go with what model gives you, and then decide which options you go for. It's a mixture of political decision, economic decision, and we have to supply it. We'll probably land with renewables somewhere around 30%. I think GHG emission target will probably be below the EU average or the EU target. And what is really, we can already see this from the conservative scenario, but it stays the same with the more ambitious scenarios, that the RFNBO target is very difficult to meet, the LULUCF target is very difficult to meet, non-ETS or ETS2, if you will, very difficult to meet. So there's difficult, expensive, but doable, and expensive and impossible. So that's a mix of the national energy plan, and now we have to work on finalizing the thing.
And actually, in Poland, what we can see is that you have even a bit higher difficulty than other countries. Like, for example, in the electricity sector, you start with a very high share of cogeneration. But surprisingly, I mean, looking from a distance, I mean, from Hungary or from think tank point of view, you actually seem to step on the gear. So renewable uptake is really there. In the household sector, in the heating, you are getting rid of coal as well. So in a sense, it seems that Poland has the ambition, and then you are really on this pathway as well. And you consider in your diversified option as well nuclear as well. So, and in natural gas, we see this diversification as well. So in a sense, what we see is that you are really stepping on this pathway. You are still at the beginning, but seems to be quite credible from your side. How do you see this? This diversification is really there. You see this nuclear option and others as realistic, and they will come in?
Yeah, I think we've seen that if you have a diversified portfolio of technologies, you're more resilient. And I think this is lesson also from the Russian invasion on Ukraine. A diversified electricity system is an insecure one. So we're going into a diversified portfolio of technologies. Nuclear will enter the mix as well. We have a very ambitious program, because we don't have nuclear like you do, guys. So I look at it with envy, because it's a low emission technology. We have to develop it from scratch. And if you develop it from scratch, it takes a lot of time. But we are determined to have it in the mix. We are really developing solar very fast. Heat pumps in the housing sector are developing very fast. So I think that it's fair to say that people is voting with their wallets, and they are going, PV and heat pumps, and there's of course some state support, which is important, but they view these investments as making themselves more independent from the market prices, which is, in my opinion, the main driver of the bottom-up change of the Polish mix. But it's still changing. The mix is changing very fast. If you consider that 2 years ago, in 2022, we have a share of coal in electricity mix at the level of 73% or so, and then in 23 it was 61%. So a 10% point drop, which is a lot. And the first quarter of this year, again, a drop in the coldest period, if you will, so the most energy intensive. The coal share in the power mix dropped below 60%. So it's going down really fast, but that's challenging because we want to avoid a uncontrolled collapse of the coal generation, because we need to have a backup for renewables. And I'm really looking forward to this discussion on green gases, because this is one of the ways to actually keep the backup on. Because at certain level, you will hit a very important problem. The grid will need to be ready for this level of renewables. Now we're going fast, but I can see in the immediate future that we need to make sure that the system actually works.
Thank you. And then Daniela, please.
Thank you. Our NECP, we are doing the final touches on the final NECP. According to the draft version from last year, we have substantiated the NECP with a list of policies and concrete measures. Regarding GHG emissions, I think Hungary has a really ambitious target by 2030. We updated our target from 40% to 50%, so 50% reduction compared to 1990, and it's gross reduction. And we are at 37% gross reduction right now. So I think we are on a good path, and the Commission didn't challenge the GHG ambition in our updated NECP. But regarding energy efficiency and renewables, we get some comments and recommendations from the Commission as well. But it's really ambitious. Regarding energy efficiency, we would like to reduce the country's energy consumption to 750 petajoule by 2030, and the Commission wants to reduce it more, even by 70 petajoule more, so to 680 petajoule, which seems to impossible to reach. It's physically not feasible right now, because until 2030, because it's only 5.5 years from now, and we are in a growing economy circumstance. So it seems to impossible to reach this 680 petajoules. But we are assessing the possibility, of course. And regarding renewables, we will update our NECP to 29% renewable share in our final energy consumption. It is, I think, 21% now. So the Commission said that we have to increase this 29% to 34%. But the challenges are the same with the renewables, because Hungary has right now more than 6 gigawatts of solar energy, which is, I think, huge. And we will have, we plan to have 1 gigawatt wind energy by 2030. So the renewable uptake is really fast in Hungary. So we have good results. But we are assessing also the 34% according to the Commission. But if we can see the renewables, rather emission-free energy, not renewables, maybe the nuclear could count. and it will be really great because without nuclear energy, we cannot reach climate neutrality by 2050.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's quite interesting as well. So we probably will see changes in the NECP. Maybe just let me come back to one issue because I agree with this that renewable energy efficiencies are the difficult targets here in a sense. But actually, what was surprising for us as well, at least in REC when we were looking at it, that in energy efficiency, what we have seen is that it's a difficult issue because people are not price sensitive, we do not react prices, so it's difficult to reduce energy consumption. However, due to the high prices, to the crisis and to the war, people starting to see, and it's not only people, so not only household, but industry, they managed to reduce their energy consumption in gas and electricity, at least at the European level, around 20%. And our region was very similar, so we were not that much below that. So what I'm looking for, and I'm very curious about your opinion as well, that in energy efficiency field, do you see that, because we were usually underperforming these targets, but what we learned at the same time that people are voting with their wallet, as I think you mentioned this, and with these high prices, and if you let the market work, it might achieve significant reduction in energy consumption as well. How do you see this issue? And then maybe Daniela, you can iterate as well on this energy service obligation scheme as well, whether it is fruitful, how do you see the result of it, whether it will arrive to significant reduction in energy consumption as well. So just coming back to the NECP and a bit focus on the energy efficiency.
Yes, the energy efficiency as a topic is really difficult because saving energy is a really good aim because I think the energy consumption European-wide is really unsustainable. So we have to do something with this area. In Hungary, in 2021, we have introduced the energy efficiency obligation scheme, which oblige the energy service companies to make investments regarding energy efficiency, also in industry, and we hope that they will turn to the residential sector as well. So on a market-based portfolio, energy efficiency investments can be launched in this energy efficiency scheme. This is a really good working energy efficiency tool. We are fine-tuning this scheme regularly. And we have launched a organized secondary market for certified energy savings to trading with certified energy savings, which are created in this obligation scheme. So the energy efficiency investment can be profitable in this system. And from the residential point of view, we will launch a new home renovation program from 1st of July in Hungary, which will target the houses built before 1990. So families can renovate their homes. So I think we have good initiatives to save energy, but again, the targets which we have to reach and with which we have to comply are really ambitious, and we have to raise or make more faster this development regarding energy efficiency.
Thank you. I don't know, Christoph, Lucas?
Yes, thanks. I think this is probably the most difficult element of the green transition because energy efficiency, that is, because you need to keep a balance between growth of the economy and saving of the energy. And also what we have seen from the war is that if the price is right, there's a good signal to invest in energy efficiency. But it's dangerous to think that the price will solve the issue, because it's, you know, some factories will just close and never come back on stream because energy is just too expensive. We saw it from fertilizers plant. They were not saving energy; they were just switching off production. So I think it's a very difficult balance between the saving and the growth. And I think this is why the Commission target is so challenging, because you can perceive this as limiting your growth. And there's a limit. How deep you can cut this. And I think energy efficiency will be probably the most challenging or at least among the most challenging in NECPs. For ESCOs, I would say that, in my opinion, there's a danger that this could be a technology or a way of financing that has been, and it will be always, the technology of the future. I think we've been discussing this in Poland for years and years and years. It has never developed to a proposition that people embrace. Of course, we have companies, ESCO companies, but they very fast they tapped onto the market that is very easy, like big schools, hospitals, easy investments, where the bill is significant enough so you can actually make an investment decision. I think what is crucial for this technology this way of funding to flourish, I agree with you, we need to move to the residential sector. So we need to learn, or these companies need to learn, how to package the individual housing investments into a financial product. And I think it would be maybe nice to discuss this under your presidency, because I think it's a very interesting topic, and I think we need this kind of innovative solutions to move forward in the housing sector, because ESCO has proven that it can work in public administration and bigger industry sectors, but now we need to climb down one level lower.
Thank you. Lucas?
Regarding energy efficiency, we were quite successful in the final energy consumption and primary energy consumption goal for 2020. We not only met but also surpassed these goals. But we find the goals in those two areas quite challenging for 2030. Definitely. Where we have a significantly more challenges is the goal based on the old Article 7, so new energy savings or cumulative energy savings. We don't have a problem with physically making these energy savings or energy efficiency investments too, but we have a difficulty with making them accountable for the state. Because many companies and even some households are not willing to go through all this administrative burden and the burden of the sustainability of the investment for the next 5 or 10 years. So like accepting controls from various bureaus 10 years after the investment is done. So they were more willing to invest their own money without any subsidy from the state, which made these investments inaccountable for the state and not meeting this target under the Article 7. We tried to save part of this by voluntary agreements with big companies in Czech Republic, but still, even though we met the yearly quota at the end of the period up to 2020, we were not able to successfully fill in the cumulative quota. And we are in a similar condition right now because we already did not met the goal for 2021 and 22 in the area of new energy savings and energy efficiency investments. And this is even though we have a scheme for subsidizing households for energy efficiency investments and renewable energy sources from, let's say, 2005, 6, 7, which is called the Green Savings or now New Green Savings Program, which is running quite successfully, for example, only in the field of say photovoltaics, we have more than 200,000 investments. The same goes for the heating pumps, which were very successful in this program. But as I said, we need to tap into the potential of the big savings, which are now done more on the market than via subsidies or any involvement of the states. And this would make them accountable from the point of view of state and also to report them to the commission. So
Thank you. And as we are at half time already, maybe.
I think you should follow up on the ESCO because I'm really envious of your ESCO system in Czech Republic. You should be proud of that.
yeah, I have to say that it was started quite early, also by the big companies, which makes it quite easy for them to go on. But there is also some problem, mainly for the state bureaus, various offices, agencies, and so on, because the ESCO payments are considered as a debt. So it's very difficult for various public bodies to run these investments because the officers responsible for the financing are not willing to go into that.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see the cost levels between the various countries because knowing Hungary is quite visible through the energy efficiency regulation scheme that what is the value of saving 1 gigajoule of energy here in Hungary. So it will be interesting to see how it relates to the Polish or the Czech or the Slovakian systems. So it's an interesting part. But let's move to this part again, which was mentioned by you, by Christoph and the others as well, that what we need is actually Europe is needing economic growth as well. And our region, we are really looking for, and Hungary mainly, to very energy intensive developments in the country because we are promoting car manufacturing sectors, we are promoting battery assembly sectors, which are quite energy intensive as well. And at the same time, we saw during this crisis that prices can be very volatile and very, very high at the same time, which can be a killer for quite many of these sectors. And we have seen and observed similar tendencies as was mentioned by Christoph, that it's not an energy saving when a fertilizer company is closing down for 3 months and then it's waiting for the prices to go down. And if they are lucky, it goes down. And they reopen. If they are unlucky, never open again. So it's not energy efficiency, it's something else which you see in the energy consumption figure. So part of the 20% saving accounts for this one, which is, I wouldn't call it energy efficiency neither. But coming back to this energy industrial sector, we would like to have in Europe, and it's not only our region, but in our region as well, more competitive industry, more competitive companies at the same time. And the big question here is that this shift, which we have seen in the last few years, that earlier we had this, that okay, we go for these green targets at whatever price, and then the price turns out to be very expensive. But how can we introduce policy instruments and other tools which will help the industry to really be really competitive in an environment where the prices will be determined by the market? So it's a very, very interesting and good question. And what we have seen is that in the last few years, the Commission, together with the national regulation, started to implement few tools. And just to name some of them, one was already mentioned, this Net Zero Industry Act. But if we go on this path, we can mention the CBAM regulation as well, the cross-border carbon adjustment mechanism. where foreign companies will have to pay for their carbon content as well, in the same way as the European companies. And the question is whether you see these as sufficient intervention into this field, or you would see other instruments are needed, or if there are other issues which we will reopen. So the question is that going to the problematic side, we were talking a bit about the positive side. Okay, what are the instruments which should stay? But the question is that what are the instruments where you would open the field again, and then you would start to rethink whether from a European industry competitiveness point of view, you would do it in a bit different way than we have planned it before. And then I don't even remember the order, so maybe let's start from the middle now, and then I don't make the mistake. Then Christoph, what do you think about this? What are the instruments you would open, rethink, and then we come to this industrial question as well.
Yeah, I think CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, we should make it more robust. I think today it's good that we have it in the first place, but it covers only a few products, and I think after the first phase, when we need to learn how to work with this, we need to expand this to other products as well. Because steel, cement, and sometimes electricity, these are not the only products that we should be promoting in the EU. So I think this is the number one tool that we should reopen and make it stronger. I think Net Zero Industry Act is a good start, but now we need to implement. I think there's quite a few implementing acts the Commission should issue, and I think that's the next step. I don't think we should change it, but the Commission should work hard to issue all the implementing acts. And I think what is probably, and I think it transfers me nicely to the industrial policies, that today the main tool of the Commission to promote innovative industries in Europe, or even incumbent industries in Europe that are transitioning away from fossil fuels, is the Innovation Fund. This is part of the EU ETS, and the revenues from the EU ETS that the Commission has are going into competitions that projects from around Europe can win, and they can build innovative installations. I think that this is actually the only true industrial policy that the Commission does. I think we should enlarge the scope of the Innovation Fund, maybe take it away from EU ETS and put it directly under the dedicated budget line from the MFF. I think we should do much more in Europe to actually promote green industries, clean tech. I think we're losing the fight, even in technologies we shouldn't have, like the car manufacturing. We are really running late behind some of the Asian tigers. We are beginning to lose ground on different technologies as well, hydrogen, carbon capture and storage. The Americans have designed the IRA mechanism, which is very easy. It's a tax credit, so a tax rebate. So I think the competition is not asleep, and we should really work hard to have this industry policy muscle. I've worked in Brussels for many years, and the feeling was always that the industry commissioner was the weak one, because there were member states who had strong industries, and it was not in their interest to have a strong Commission competence on industry. Now the landscape has totally changed. In Europe in general, we are lagging behind some countries outside. So now, if we don't work together on industrial policy, will completely lose the remnants of the industries we still have in Europe.
But don't you have the feeling, just to come back this, that with the CBAM and with the others, we are too administrative, too slow compared to the competitors, or
Well, we are in Europe, so all this comes in the same sentence. You know, I think it's the specificity of how we do things in Europe. IRA in the US is easy because the tax competence is the American state. In Europe, we have anonymity in tax policy, so we will have to agree. Every member state will have to agree to have one measure. So we need to be innovative and more administrative. It takes us more time, but eventually we'll have to come up with something that fits the treaties and the institutions. So it's more complicated, but you know.
okay, maybe Daniela would be the next, and then just with a bit of spice here that administrative and slow, but we see now a new instrument which came quite quickly, is this introduction on the Chinese car manufacturer, this extra tax, which seems to be quite quick if it will work. So maybe you can include in your answer that what is your opinion, the Hungarian standpoint on this issue as well as the CBAM and the industrial net zero.
Actually, more and more voice raises about the fine-tuning of the CBAM. Especially, I was in Luxembourg on Monday on the Environmental Council, and this topic has came up in the ENVI Council on the not in the room, but outside of the room, that we have to fine-tuning the CBAM. For example, of the broaden the CBAM and the administrative burden also, because from the 1st of October there is a transition period in CBAM until 25 December, and it's not really clear what the member states and what the authorities have to do in the CBAM system. So it's really unclear what's the situation in the transitional period. So it's also administrative and technical issues with the CBAM. But before the elections, some months ago, we could hear some voices that for example, the EPP would like to reopen the CO2 cars and vans file, which is part of the Fit for 55. I didn't hear anything about it in the near past, but or right now. But it's also it will be also on the table. From the industrial side, from 1st of July, the Hungarian presidency of the Council will start, and our first priority will be the competitiveness of the European Union, and we will focus on the industry as well, and we will channel this competitiveness topic into almost every policies that we have on the table. So we will closely work with this topic during our presidency. I cannot say so much about the Chinese European starting trade war about electric cars, and I think this tax measure will be in charge from the 4th of July. So we will see, but I heard that the Chinese will answer this European measure maybe. So we could see the development of this issue.
Lucas?
To complement what was already said, I would probably also add that we should also look into our internal, so national regulation and legislation. For example, Czech Republic is one of the few countries that are still implementing the phase measuring of electricity for households. And if I'm not mistaken, the mainland China is the only producer of the inverters which can shift the flows of electricity between the phases. So in Czech Republic, if you want to install photovoltaics and not pay too much for the overflows or to even your flow of electricity between the phases, so you can get the maximum of money for the electricity you put into the grid, you have to buy Chinese inverter. Just because of Czech regulation, because you are calculated on each phase separately, not together on your whole trading point. So we should probably not just focus on the European level, but also do the maximum at our national level. And I would also echo one of the studies of the European Environmental Agency, which already maybe 10 or 12 years ago warned that the installation of renewables in the European Union is the only part of the chain, of the value chain in renewables, that the thinking, inventing, and so on is done in US and Japan. The construction is done in China, and only the installation is done in Europe. So we are only on the low value part of the chain, and this is something that should be changed. For example, by supporting the research, development, and innovation, not only on the European level, by Innovation Fund, Horizon, and so on, but also on the national level, as, for example, Czech Republic has a quite big program of the Czech Technological Agency focused on energy, on renewables, energy efficiency, and so on. So these are the points we should focus on also.
Thank you very much for your answers. And as I see that we can turn to the last group of questions which we were putting here, as we are, I mean, this V4 energy think tank platform is very focusing on cooperation and between the countries. The first question comes that do you see that we still share quite many issues here in the V4, what we were talking about? I mean, in that sense that I think what I felt is that financing is a critical issue. I mean, our income per capita is much lower than the EU average. However, there are big differences here as well. We have a close connection in electricity as well. CBAM regulation is quite important for us, maybe more important than for other countries being at the border of the EU member states. So who do you see, which are the areas where you would foresee that the joint action could work in the future between the V4 countries, or we have to go and fight individually, or we have to even enlarge the region itself? What is your opinion on that one? Do you see areas where V4 would be able to say the same voice as we have seen it 5-6 years ago, or it's not path which you would foresee in the future? Or nuclear, for example, which can be another. So how do you see this question? Cooperation between the Let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the technological neutrality of the transition is a thing that unites us all. I think we are not camped in one of the groups that advocate for never nuclear, never renewables only. I think we all want to lower the cost of transformation and use all technologies in available. So I think technological neutrality is something that all of us will be advocating for. Of course, when we entered the EU, our interest in energy and climate were very similar. After entering the EU, we've been moving in different speeds, investing in different things. So now we more apart, and that's natural. But I think there's still a lot of things that we can that unite us. I think the heating transformation is probably something that we have similar challenges in this region because we have quite similar building stock and the structures of society and climate is quite similar. Not for you guys, you know, to the south, but for us at least. So I think heating is another thing. Decarbonized gases. This is something that we should probably also find many points that we agree, because decarbonized gases is something that we can replace with decarbonized gases, imported fossil fuels. So this is something that is of interest for a lot of us. And I think decarbonization of transport is also something that is the problems are very similar in this part of Europe. If we're going to go to under the ETS2, you know, the reductions, the nature of the system works in a way that the richer countries will be able to sustain the situation as they have, and the reduction will probably be pushed to poorer countries like the countries in our region.
From the technical point of view, as I'm an electrical engineer, I would say the connecting of the region is very important, as was already partly mentioned by Mr. Horvath, both in electricity as well as the gas industry. I have seen in the program that in the late afternoon, Mr. Merwart will be speaking, so I will not go too much into on this topic. But Czech Republic has the potential to become a hub or a crossroad for some very important hydrogen projects. So there is the possibility to connect also other four countries to this, say, north-south or west-east projects in hydrogen. We also should cooperate very closely in terms of sharing not only best practices, but also any information and knowledge we have, both as good examples as well as something that did not function so well. And I would also say that we have to cooperate closely in other topics regarding, for example, technologies for heating. Czech Republic has not so very much that potential for geothermal, as was already mentioned, but if I'm not mistaken, Hungary is doing very much in this field, so we have very much to learn there. And yeah, so I would stress this mostly sharing our experience, knowledge, and so.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with you on the mentioned topics. I would like to highlight the knowledge sharing also, because in the green transition we are doing things that nobody did before us, and we have to share the best practices. I think regarding climate adaptation measures, I think we have to focus on the cooperation and maybe on just transition regarding lignite or coal phase out, which is a very huge topic on the agenda, and maybe research and innovation also regarding, for example, nuclear energy, regarding small modular reactors, which is a really new field, which maybe can help us during our green transition. So yeah, I think in my opinion that these are the most highlighted topics.
Thank you very much. And I think it's time for questions as well. So we just wanted to leave some time for questions from the audience or from the online participants. I don't know if Kati were able to follow that. Do they have questions or do we have questions here from the audience? If you have, just please raise your hand, and there is a question from the online participants.
Thank you. I need a micro. Yes, we have one online question from Agatha from OSC. Thank you. Partly you were talking about it, but I read it out. So whether you see any chance for changing the renewables target into zero emissions, low emissions target, including nuclear energy, which was called for by France, and what is the Hungarian, Czech, and Polish point on this, so to support this issue.
Okay. Who would be the first to answer this? You just give the microphone.
You still have a couple of days for the presidency, so.
Thank you. Yes, I think I said that we should change maybe the target from renewables to low emission or emission-free energy target. Yes, because once again, without nuclear, we cannot reach climate neutrality by 2050. I think this is a fact. And we have to think about it, and the renewable energy share and renewables themselves requiring a robust grid development, which costs a lot in every member state. That the renewables has a really big amplitude regarding, for example, nuclear or natural gas. So we have to make the step forward, and we have to find a solution to these issues and to these challenges. Come up with the rise of the renewables.
I will say it's a very interesting idea. From the practical point of view, I think it will not happen before the next targets are due, so before 2030. But it's a certainly very good discussion topic for the new kind of cycle of the targets, so for 2040. And yeah, it would be interesting to discuss that, because the objectives we have, one of them is reduction of emissions, and whether it's renewables or nuclear, it shouldn't count.
Yeah, I would say too, it would be quite difficult to gain consensus on this within member states. But I would stress that we have already example of other sources named as low carbon and put into the same group as renewables, and those are the sources of waste heat in the Renewable Energy Directive for the heating sector. So there is some already part of legislation that is done in this, and this should be always thought about.
Please, I might just add to this question, because I think it's a very, very good question from the online participant. But what you have to probably see here is that I fully agree with this, that usually if you have a look at the European renewable auctions, but you see that the renewables are competing on a different level than all the other energy, because you are competing on the energy level, and then you are somehow a bit disregarding these integration issues, like how much the network should be need for them to integrate, and then it will not appear in the price. However, what we can see, and I think it's a problem, that if you would include nuclear into this pool, the problem with the nuclear is completely that this is very difficult to build. So we see the European examples that we see delays, not only 1 year, but 5 or even 6 years delays in the realization of the nuclear plants. And the second issue which you can see there is that with the stronger and stronger regulation on the nuclear, the costs are not going down, but rather up. And in comparison in the renewables, there are studies which would even point to this, that even with including integration costs, like network developments and others, it can be still a downward trend. So it's a big question. And the other issue, if you have competitive storage technologies coming into the picture, then it would change the picture for the renewables as well. So it can really change the perception what we have toward renewables. So it's not only the question of technology neutrality, but it's a question of time as well. That, how much time do we have for these new technologies? And actually, it's a good question that in Hungary we see some delays already in the new parks capacity building. However, we go on the pathway of extending the lifetime of the old nuclear power plant. I would ask the question for the Czech Republic and Poland as well. How do you see this? For Poland, where you have no nuclear yet, I would say it would take really a lot of time to have the first nuclear reactor, which could probably come by experience more than 10 years from now. How do you see this? And a similar question for the Czech Republic, because it's always coming up as a question.
Well, first I want to follow up on the issue you mentioned about the targets versus timelines. We are not discussing it yet at the council level, but I would say as a devil's advocate, give member states the freedom. They have the freedom of energy mix in the treaty. So if the target could include nuclear, it's their decision to include it or not. And of course, with all the burden that comes with it, if you fail to build your plant, you need to meet the target of renewables. So I think everyone will be aware that adding nuclear in this target comes with a risk. So I think it's a fair play. If you increase the scope of the target, you need to be aware that it's not plain sailing. Your question about developing new nuclear, of course, it's, as I said at the beginning, it's a totally different ballgame for us because we don't have a nuclear plant. So we have to build everything from scratch, including the skills and the local content around it. So it's really a different challenge to building a new plant or repowering. But I think we have a credible plan, and we want to have the first block in the second half of the 30s. Let's see how it goes.
The Czech Republic.
Fine. First, I would like to speak about the prices, the electricity prices, because we have seen this in the last years, many years. We are slowly shifting from the energy on the market, where the electricity prices, the LCOE competed among the technologies. We are now shifting to various capacity mechanisms and so on. Part of the renewables are completely outside the market, paid via feed-in tariffs or least via feed-in premiums. So the market changed, and it's quite difficult to compare the various LCOE prices of electricity among technologies now. Second, regarding the new build, we have already 52 nuclear power plants in 2 localities. One of them is completed, and the topic is that the operation of these power plants will probably end in the 30s or 40s, depending on how long the prolongation of operation would be approved by the State Office of Nuclear Safety. There is the issue of how to continue in the locality, because you have educated people with high degrees in nuclear energy, and you don't want to lose them. So there will probably be new build in this locality because of this reason, which is bit strange topic because the Andria locality of Temelín has 2 blocks, and when you look at this power plant, you see it's only a house. Because the 2 other blocks that were planned were never built. So you have a locality that is partly prepared. There are also some tubings like for cooling water and for electricity and so on. But the building of the nuclear power plant will probably start in the Dukovany region because of what I already said, because of those people who are not to lose their jobs. However, now our government came with the plan to build even up to 4 blocks of new nuclear power plants, which will probably meet with the constraint of cooling water. You see the traditional nuclear power plants in our country to be cooled from wastewater from rivers or lakes. And in those 2 localities, there is not enough water to cool all the new build. So we will probably have to scratch our plants to like maybe only 1 block per locality. So we are also looking forward to small nuclear reactors, small modular reactors, which should replace not primarily electricity production, but heat production in big heating plants now running on lignite.
Yes. Thank you very much for these insights. I think this will be very interesting for the autumn session because we have this nuclear paper and the network as well we are covered. I think we still have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So if yes, so I see 2 raised hands. So Barbara, you start and then
Yeah, maybe we can collect the questions. So, hello, my name is Barbara Hood and I work with REC. And this panel was actually asked from other people in previous conferences that they would like to have a panel on V4 issues on Green Deal. And the original question was that how could you make Green Deal popular in V4 countries? So and when the question was raised, actually we could see quite a big difference between, let's say, old member states, new member states. That this the green topic was much more vivid in discussions among people in Western countries than in Eastern countries. And now with the elections, we see that actually this drop in enthusiasm for the green topics drops much more in the West than in the East, maybe because it never existed in this region in that level as in the West. But still, as of today, how would you start this process buying in with citizens for the Green Deal? So and we hear a lot about the costs, and we also learn that a lot has to be invested into the grids. We have to build renewables, etc. But you already touched upon the energy efficiency part. Individual citizens should also invest, and they will feel this cost. So how would you balance out these priorities, and what are the tools that you think might be the easy and no regret things to do that you would propose that to somehow increase the happiness of citizens and their buy-in for the Green Deal? So
thank you very much. And then let's go for the second question, and then we answer to that.
My name is Krzysztof Dębiec. I'm senior fellow at Center for Eastern Studies, SW. After the full-scale invasion of Russia and Ukraine, Politico wrote an article entitled "How Putin Made Green Deal Great Again," meaning, of course, that it kind of the risk for the stability of supplies of hydrocarbons pushed or was about to push European states for more effort in the Green Deal, green transition area. And my question is, first of all, to Minister Daniela Deli, to what extent this geostrategic dimension features in the both in the Hungarian presidency program? I know that the following Polish presidency will take care of that for sure, and also in the national strategies going towards renewables, for example, or on the other hand, in diversification efforts. Hungary is one of very few countries in Europe that maintain a very high import dependency in both oil and gas, around 80-85%. I know there are some problems with Croatian side in terms of Adria pipeline, but I would be curious to hear what's the current state of play here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the questions. I think these are very interesting ones. So let's start from Daniela. I think please use this because we will manage to.
Thank you. Answering the first question, how can we make Green Deal popular? I think the first thing is that we have to make the whole green transition process profitable. Until it's not profitable, it won't be popular. This is the first statement from me, and it leads to the other part of the answer that we have to make these green investments attractive. We have to make Europe attractive for investments and investors, rather disincentivizing these measures. And with the Fit for 55, we often can see that these legislation are rather disincentivizing than attractive. We have restrictions, we have really ambitious targets, but not so much attractiveness in these legislations. And on the other hand, I think the new institutional cycle in the European Union, one of the biggest tasks will be for them that proving for our society, for the European society and for the European economy that it is better with than without the Green Deal. Because as I said in the beginning of our panel discussion, I think the Green Deal has only the green and the deal is missing from the Green Deal right now. For the second question, I think with the result of the European Parliament elections, the Green Deal and the green transition is not forget. We still agree on the target. We still agree on the aim that the European Union and Europe has to be climate neutral by 2050, and we have to do everything to make this realize this target. Yes, we have the geopolitical situation, the unfortunate geopolitical situation, and as Hungary, we do our best in order to diverse our energy sources. This is one of our key priority regarding the field of energy. But I think this leads to us also to the competitiveness that we can diverse our energy sources if as Europe we are competitive enough in the field of energy as well. So I think I will pass the floor to the other.
Please.
So the question is how to make Green Deal great again. I think I will just build on what you just said. I think the main problem of the Green Deal is that it's a language of bans and cost. And in this form, it will always be unpopular because we, whether it's a CO2 on cars or the EPBD directive, like energy efficiency in buildings, what message comes at the end of this is that, okay, so I need to change my heating source. I need to change my car. And this comes with a cost. And these two elements target what most of us have in life. The possession is property, and cars are probably the most high ticket elements of value we all have. So if you push us to change these valuable elements, there'll always be a backlash. So I think we need to make the Green Deal about a deal, growth deal, affordable deal, about the people and about the language of benefits. It's difficult because energy transition is costly. But what is also important is that non-action comes with a cost. I think communication is also a very important part of all this. We have the Commission first, and then the member states have gave up communicating what the change is about. And there's an old game between the Commission and member states. We don't want to be so proactive on our part, so please force us to do something. And the Commission's, of course, there's a ban, there's a thing, and ministers from they're coming back from Brussels. It's the Commission, it's not us. We have to do it. And if you continue this game, at some point the people say, "Hang on, we leave the European Union because you always come back with all these stupid things." So I think we really need to improve the communication, but also make the Green Deal about the people and people-centered, and make it about the language of benefits, not costs.
Very much was said already, so I would probably add or stress the need for good communication, because when you ask in Czech Republic, most of the people who are against the European Green Deal would probably not be able to tell you what it is about. They will tell you that they are against Green Deal because it's a dictate from European Commission, from the non-voted bureaucrats sitting in those lush palaces. And we have to explain to them, all of us bureaucrats, politicians, and others from the Commission, that European Green Deal is something that was agreed jointly between the Member State, Commission, the Parliament, that European Union is not some bureaucratic construct somewhere far away in Brussels, that we are European Union as well, and that there are benefits to the Green Deal as well. I will connect this with the question regarding the energy security after the Russian aggression. In our state energy policy, one of the leading moments or motives is the so-called energy trilemma. It's the environmental sustainability, energy security, and economic feasibility. When you look at the old state energy policy of Czech Republic, this document says that these three are standing against one another. Then, after the aggression, after the shift of prices, you see that renewables and energy savings are now, not always, not exclusively, but very often they are the so-called silver bullet. They are solving all three parts of this. They are good for environmental sustainability. They are solving our energy dependency on the hydrocarbons from the east. And they are also good for the stability of energy prices and so on. So this is also the part that should be very widely explained.
Thank you very much. And I think time-wise we are very good. So thank you very much, esteemed panelists, for participating in the discussion. Thank you very much for the question. Really, thank you very much for your time and being here. And I think the last point, and a big applause for the panel.